Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at the Nashville Predators, as two of their key players of their core are on expiring contracts. So we'll be looking at the latest on contract extension talk, and if they decide to go the other direction. If it's a trade, what's their price, where could they go? We'll be going over all of that in this video. So let's get right into it. So the Nashville Predators, Filip Forsberg and Mattias Ekholm are on the final year of their contracts with the Nashville Predators. Filip Forsberg, at 27 years old, has played almost 500 NHL games. By the first week of the season, he will have played his 500th NHL game. He's on the last year of a 6-year, $36 million contract, paying him $6 million per year. So you would expect for Filip Forsberg, he would like probably a pay raise between 6.5 to maybe even 7.5 in his next deal. Will he get that? Is there a market for that? I think so. I think Filip Forsberg's one of those guys. If he went to free agency next year and asked for $7 million, now again, the caveat is he has to have another good year this year. And as long as he does that, in most people's eyes, a top 6 forward winger that could make $7 million. Now that is a little bit high, especially in a what is it called, a flat salary cap. But still, I think Forsberg's value is worthy because he scores goals. He scores goals. He gets goals in big games. I mean, you remember what he did on that run back in 2018 with the Nashville Predators. He is a very solid player, and I think the Nashville Predators would be upset letting him go. But as you have guys that hopefully come up, like Phil Tomasino and hopefully at some point Eeli Tolvanen, as those guys start to develop, they will be taking away spots from Forsberg. So does it make sense for the Nashville Predators to sign Forsberg to, say, another 6 or 7 or maybe even 8-year deal? It doesn't make much sense at this point for the Predators, considering their depth chart. Now, if Filip Forsberg is going to be moved, and there's rumors he's being shopped around, some of the teams that I think would be interested. The New York Islanders. I mean, the Islanders, it's an easy one. I'm an Islander fan. We're always looking for more wingers, especially scoring wingers, and Forsberg fits that bill. You don't go too far down the road. The New Jersey Devils are another team. Despite getting Tomas Tatar, they still have a lot of young guys in that top 6, like Yegor Sharangovich. You know, they'd probably like to see a little bit more depth on the wing alongside Hughes and Hischier. So Filip Forsberg would fit very nicely on those two teams in New York. Heading out west, I think there are some teams that could be interested in Forsberg as well. The Anaheim Ducks have not been shy to mention that they would like to add another winger. And they've seen Filip Forsberg in the playoffs. Bob Murray has pretty good experience with Forsberg on the last couple runs during the Cup run for the Anaheim Ducks between, 2014 to 2018, 2019, around that frame. So Filip Forsberg would also be a nice fit there on the West Coast. You could also argue that maybe a team like the Minnesota Wild, but again, they're looking pretty deep. They'd probably need more of a center, but Filip Forsberg could be another winger in a market like that where they're trying to win right now. Looking at defenseman Mattias Ekholm. Now, Mattias Ekholm is 31 years old, so he's a couple years older than Filip Forsberg. He has played over 500 games in the NHL. He'll be hitting 600 at some point this year. And he's on the last year of a 6-year deal, but it costed him a lot less. He made $22.5 million over those 6 years, $3.75 million per year. One of the sweetheart contracts of the NHL for the past 4 to 6 years. That has been a great contract. And Mattias Ekholm will probably be looking to make one more paycheck, and I wouldn't be surprised if he asks for somewhere between $5 to $5.5 million on his next deal. And I think Mattias Ekholm is one of those guys, like Filip Forsberg, he's worth the pay raise. And I think we're going to see that here with Ekholm. The scary thing you worry about signing Ekholm is, what do you do when you get to a 5, a 6? Maybe even a 7-year contract. He's already 31 years old, so even if you sign him to a 5-year deal, which is probably something he'd want, he's going to be 36 years old, and maybe, depending on how old he is when he signs that deal, he may even be 37 by the end of that contract on a 5-year deal, which is probably something that he would like. So, are the Nashville Predators going to be willing to pay that up for Mattias Ekholm? Or have we heard that maybe he'll keep a guy like Ekholm because he's not sure, or David Poyle's not sure what he has in some of the younger guys, like Dante Fabro, like Alex Carrier. Maybe it's better off you keep Ekholm, you sign him to the big money contract, and whatever happens when he turns 36, 37, maybe you buy out the final year or two of that contract. It will be worth it for the front half of the contract for Ekholm. And if he does, if he's a guy that ends up getting moved, there will be plenty of suitors around the NHL for a guy like Mattias Ekholm. We've already seen plenty of teams throw, some waves toward the Nashville Predators. We know that the Philadelphia Flyers, before they got Ryan Ellis, were very interested in Mattias Ekholm. But it seems like David Poyle really wants to keep him in the fold. But Mattias Ekholm could be a fit in a couple of places still. The Boston Bruins seem like a team that could definitely be in the running. I think they're a team that wants to add more on that left side. I think, they've added some guys like Derek Forsberg that I think will help the team. But you had a guy like Ekholm. He is a different level than a guy like Derek Forsberg. He's more of a puck-moving defenseman, more of a two-way defenseman, really. I think that's a really good fit there. The New Jersey Devils are another team. I mean, I keep bringing up the Devils here, but the Devils need some help. And I think when you move on from guys like Subban next year, that's on the right side, but you're going to have some holes again. So maybe you bring in a guy like Mattias Ekholm. He could fit in, playing alongside, and developing defensemen like Ty Smith, Damon Severson. As those guys continue to grow and develop, I really think a guy like Mattias Ekholm could be a nice stabilizing piece on that back end. The New York Islanders, I think that's why Lou Lamoriello has not talked about his signings yet, because I truly believe he is looking at adding either Vlad Tarasenko, or he's looking to add a defenseman on that left side to fill the void of Nick Leddy. And Mattias Ekholm does that for the Islanders. And the fact that he comes in at less than $4 million for the final year of his deal this year, it's an even more envious thing for the Islanders, because the Islanders are tight on cap space. I mean, you have to look at who they've had to re-sign this year. Cizikas, Palmieri, Sorokin, Beauvillier, Zajac. They brought all of them back. They brought in Zach Parise. So if they want to make a move for a guy like Mattias Ekholm, it definitely helps with their salary cap situation. But with all that said, with all that speculation on where they could go, how much they make, how much they could make, my argument, and from what I've been hearing from inside sources, according to David Poyle and the management there in Nashville, they want to keep those two guys long term. And this brings in a more philosophical question, or a question of what is the direction of the Nashville Predators? Because you look right now, you got Forsberg, you got Ekholm, right? You have guys like Matt Duchene, who really can't move that contract out. He's not looking so good. You have Ryan Johansson, another one. A lot of money on a guy that just hasn't performed to the level that they hoped when they signed that contract. You lose your goaltender, Pekka Rinne, who is now retired. So what is the direction of Nashville? Are they kind of just, keeping themselves from falling off the cliff for the inevitable rebuild? Or are they going to start to actually sell off their assets, get as many draft picks and prospects back as they can, and do a quicker rebuild? Because the problem you run with what the Predators are doing now, let's say they sign Forsberg and Ekholm today, right? Hypothetically, they're a year away. They can sign a new contract right now. They sign Ekholm and Forsberg before training camp. They're locked in on 5-year deals each. So Forsberg will be 32, Ekholm will be 36, 37. So with that said, those contracts may not be as easy to move if, say, the team doesn't do well again this year. And now what do you do? Because now you have guys on long-term contracts like Forsberg, Ekholm, and you also have the anchor contracts already of Johansson and Duchene. You have 4 big contracts for core guys that you have to rebuild with. And you may have gotten value for those guys come the trade deadline, specifically Forsberg and Ekholm, because you could have moved them and you didn't sign them to that contract. I think David Poyle's loyalty is a good thing. It's a good thing for morale, for bringing players in that he really believes in them. But it could also be a bit of an issue when you talk about needing to realize when it's time to rebuild. I think a lot of Nashville Predators fans would agree that this is a team that's right on the brink of not making the playoffs and being a real playoff contender, but a team that's going to willow with mediocrity, get to the first round if they get into the playoffs at all, and miss the playoffs in the first round. Or maybe even win a round and still lose. You saw what happened last year. They lost to the Carolina Hurricanes. They just squeaked into the playoffs at the last day. They worked really hard that last month and a half, almost 2 months, with UC Soros from February to the end of the year. It was all for naught because they really got beat up by the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, you could look at it one of two ways. You could look at it the side that, hey, they got into the playoffs, they punched their ticket to the dance, and they gave themselves a chance. Or you could look at it the other way, the practical way, which is, well, here we go. We make the playoffs, we get bounced in the first round, we don't have the chance of a lottery pick, and we're drafting between 17 to probably somewhere between 17 and 20, 22. And that's not really good anyway. So the Nashville Predators have to decide. Are they going to keep this core and they're going to sell out and this is the team they're going to go with? Or does David Poile make tough decisions this year and decide, listen, I love Forsberg, I love Ekholm, but their time has run out. We need to get younger, and that's what we have to do. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Would you re-sign Filip Forsberg and Mattias Ekholm? Or would you trade them for more prospects, more depth, and more prospects? That's really what they need right now, to get younger. But I know a lot of you are, you get sentimental toward these players, and I wonder if that's a part of the situation for David Poile. He doesn't want to give these guys up. The problem is, the longer he waits to trade these guys, there is two ways to look at it. The longer he waits to trade these guys, the less value they will have at the trade deadline in the springtime in 2023 and in 2022. And you also have to remember, a lot of other teams are going to start to have guys available, so their value is going to drop as higher end players are available at the deadline. And I think the deadline this year could be interesting. I think next summer will be very interesting. Year after the expansion draft, I think the Nashville Predators are one of those teams that's going to be in that mix because salary cap is the most valuable asset in a flat salary cap era. We're seeing it with teams around the league, and maybe the Nashville Predators, if they're lucky, let's say hypothetical, David Poile decides salary cap is the most valuable thing, more valuable than Forsberg and Ekholm. We trade these guys, we get draft picks, and we also have cap space for next year, which means if there's some big restricted free agents next year, I'm not even saying you give an offer sheet, but you have leverage in trades, you have leverage in the market, and that may be something that helps build the Nashville Predators along in their rebuild. And you look what, Steve Yzerman did with the Red Wings this year, a perfect example. The Carolina Hurricanes couldn't keep Alex Nedeljkovic. They thought he was too much money, so the Red Wings said, hey, we got some cap space. We'll take a chance on this Nedeljkovic kid, so they bring him in. The New York Islanders had to move out Nick Leddy to free up $5 million. And they also knew he was going to probably get plucked in expansion. So the Red Wings say, yeah, we'll take him, of course. So they did. And that's kind of what I think the Predators should do. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Are the Predators a playoff team, or should they start to begin their rebuild? And they could definitely do that this year with Forsberg and Ekholm. So let me know your thoughts down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys again next time.